Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and last night there was no Critical Role. Everyone got sick. Well, most of the cast got sick, so they did a sick day live stream thing instead where they created their characters in Baldur's Gate 3, which was a lot of fun. And when I say they, I mean Travis, Talzin, Sam, and Robbie Damon, which was nice to see. But there was no recording for episode 83 last week, or this week. During the live stream, Travis actually gave some interesting insight as to how they record their Critical Role sessions, and it seems to be completely fucking random. It is either the week before it goes live, or it could even be the Wednesday, the day before it goes live, which I thought was kind of interesting and kind of funny to sort of learn that they are very chaotic. But with that all being said, this gives us an opportunity for a different type of video today. And that different video is things that Matt Mercer does that you should take and use in your games. Now, watching other DMs is a very valuable tool. You're able to learn things, see things differently, and then apply them to your game, and potentially even twist and change them again once you get to your game. So I want to break down some things that Matt Mercer does that you should absolutely be doing in your games to improve the overall experience, in my opinion. Before we get into the video proper, I do want to just say there are some spoilers for Campaigns 3 and Campaign 2. Specific episodes are Campaign 2, Episode 76, and Episode 99, and then the other two clips are from Campaign 3, Episode 51, and Episode 67. So if you aren't caught up, or if you haven't watched those videos or episodes yet specifically, this video isn't for you. But if you're past those points in both campaigns, this video is good for you. So keep watching. But this is your last chance for spoilers if you aren't caught up with Campaigns 2 or 3. So the first thing I want to talk about is the rule of cool. This is obviously Matt's number one rule that he abides by. If there is something in the rulebook that gets in the way of a character or a player having fun or doing something really cool, it's not worth having around. He has said this multiple times. It is, in my opinion, probably one of the strongest rules that I think anyone should really run by, because you're all playing this game to have fun. And if you come up with something really cool or you think is really cool, but the rulebook doesn't allow it because of X thing, then that's just getting in the way of you doing something really cool. So realistically, it's not worth keeping around. And I agree with this 100%, and Matt Mercer lives by this rule. Now, there are a million examples in the entirety of Critical Role to show the rule of cool, but my personal favorite is actually when Caleb in Campaign 2 gets a chainmail shirt, an elven chainmail shirt, that is lighter than most chainmail, and at the beginning of the conversation, they don't believe he's going to be able to wear it because it's supposedly heavy, and he doesn't have the strength score to wear it, but Matt Mercer rules that because it's different material, because it's supposed to be different, it's supposed to be magical, he is allowed to wear it. And that is, in my opinion, one of the best examples of rule of cool, because it's not a combat scenario, it's not a, something like that, it's not like a rolling scenario, it is a straightforward, this thing says that you're not allowed to use it, but that's not fair because this thing is specifically designed to be different. It's specifically designed to be lighter, so it shouldn't have the same rules applied to it, and that's how he rules in his game, which is exactly what he says.
Anyone else with an attractive face and squishy characteristics?
Also, DM, I have a question. Chainmail on the book says you need a strength of 13 to wear it. Is that true for this chainmail?
Yes. Well, if it says, hold on, what does it say specifically?
I don't have it anymore.
Even if you are not proficient with medium armor, lack proficiency with medium armor.
Right.
Would you like to read the paper?
Yeah, it doesn't say anything
of it.
about. It's still 20 pounds.
So 20 pounds. 20 pounds is still less than that is in the book, if I'm correct, right? What's the weight of
55 pounds.
Yeah, so that's way better.
So I would. That doesn't make much sense to me. I'd say kind of the purpose of Elven Chainmail initially is that it's meant to be much more lightweight and probably would not have the same strength requirement, in my opinion.
Okay.
So he could wear it?
And that's how I'm ruling it in my campaign.
Yeah.
Hey.
The next thing that Matt Mercer does that you should do in your game is recap. Now, there's two different types of recap I'm going to be talking about today. There is the recap at the beginning of the game. Now, the recap at the beginning of the game is very important to do for your players, especially if it's been an extended period of time away. That way you can remind your players what you want or what happened last time and what sort of direction they were heading in or what sort of direction you were sort of placing them towards. It also allows you to fix mistakes that you made in the past, where you can clarify this is what it's actually supposed to be and that's what we're doing now. Like, that's the thing you're supposed to be going after, and you can clarify that to your players. Does it sound like railroading? A little bit, but if it's what they were doing last time and it's been a month since you last played, a good idea to sort of get them back on track, railroading, is to remind them of what happened. Even if it is a little bit twisted because you're changing it to correct a mistake, it is still a huge and valuable thing that you should absolutely do every time you start a campaign session. I actually have a very good example of one going wrong, or a idea the DM had going wrong, and that is in one of my games, the DM had sort of given us a path he expected us to follow, but it had been more than a month. I believe it was actually 2 months at the time, because there was a bunch of different things. We did a one-shot in that time, people got sick, blah, 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 but we didn't get together again to sort of play together. And when we came back, he didn't recap everything that he felt like he needed to, and just sort of said, go. And we ended up going a completely different direction. Yes, it was a direction he set up, but it wasn't a direction that he thought we'd be heading towards. Instead of going after the other dimensions that he set up, he was like, here, I opened up a bunch of portals for different realms. We elected to go completely elsewhere, find materials to make a new weapon. He did set that up in the previous session, but that wasn't what he thought we'd do first. So that's the sort of importance of recapping. You need to recap your sessions, what happened before, and point them in the direction that you think would be the safest. There's a reason video games have walls to block you off from things that are higher level. That's why. So you don't go over and die right away. This thing over here is too high of a level for you because that's what I've set it up for. It's a later game thing. So go over here. That happens on purpose, and you do it as a DM as well. So realistically, if that's the case, you should recap at the beginning of all of your sessions.
And welcome back. So, last we left off, Sam found a bunch of hands. And also, Bell's Hells, upon traveling all across Marquette in search of a number of varying threads, have watched them converge, as are the various ley lines, towards this nexus point on the northeastern side of the Hellcatch Valley. Here, above an ancient ruin that has been partially uncovered by one of the nearby academies and then taken over by the Cerberus Assembly, specifically Ludinus Deleth, in preparation for the apogee solstice, which is nigh. You've all taken your airship, the Silver Sun, to this location, divided your troop along with some allies you brought up with the crew of the ship. You have on the ship currently waiting your second team, which is FCG, Fern, and Iro Wendigoth, the Nightmare King. They are standing by at the ready, while the rest of you have begun a slow infiltration of this sunken pit of an excavation site.
And the other form of recap that Matt Mercer does is during combat. Now, in combat, it can be, quite a while before you go again. You could have a turn, and then for another 20 minutes you don't go because everyone else takes 5 minutes on their turn before it gets back to you. So you could be planning something, you could be looking down at your sheet, you could be talking with someone, you could be on your phone not paying attention. There's a handful of things that can go in between your turn and your next turn, and you might not be paying 100% attention. So recapping what's happened before you is something that's very powerful. Matt does this a handful of times throughout a handful of different fights that they've done in the past, and it's very helpful because it tells the person who hasn't gone in a while what the last handful of people have been up to, and what they've done and where they've moved to, what the enemies have done, etc. There's a whole list of things that the recap for combat does that is very important. Say Chetney is up, and it's been 6 turns since him, and Matt Mercer, tells him the last 4 turns. Like, this person went there, this person did this person killed this, and now it's your turn, what are you doing? That is a very powerful thing to do because it helps the player figure out what they can do. Yes, they were looking at their sheet getting ready, but in that time where they were looking down at their sheet, they sort of lost where everyone was. And now they don't know if that plan that they just did is going to work anymore. So recapping what happened in the last handful of turns can be very helpful for that player. Do you know what D&D is? It is a game of chance. So do you know what I find really boring in D&D? Taking the average. Taking the average on your hit dice is extremely boring, and it's unfair because if everyone else were to roll and you were the only person to take the average, the likelihood that you have a lot better HP than everyone else is up there. The likelihood that your average is better than some people's rolled in general, say you're a barbarian and you take the average of 6, that is the max roll a wizard can have. That is very unfair and not fun at all for anyone else. That's why I love Matt Mercer's rules of you roll, and if you roll a 1, you get to re-roll. I think that's a great rule, and I'm pretty sure it's only roll once, but in the last handful of times that I've looked at some of these rolls for hit dice, I've seen people re-roll more than once. So now it just seems like you can re-roll more than once in Matt Mercer's rules. Which again, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you can twist the rules and tweak them if you want. I personally like the re-roll ones only once, and if you get it, you were meant to get it. So I really like this rule of re-rolling. I think it makes a lot more sense to roll as opposed to take the average, because taking the average in a lot of instances, like I mentioned earlier, can make your HP insane. And I really like the randomness of D&D because it's a game of chance and randomness. So if you take that away, that's kind of boring. Roll your goddamn dice for hit points. Come on, people. Roll. And if you re-roll a 1, listen to Matt Mercer and roll it again.
Come on, you wet Kleenex. What do you get?
5!
Nice. Alrighty.
Okay.
Ashley, get your D8 ready.
Okay, it's ready to go.
What you got?
That's a 1.
A reroll one.
I reroll ones, okay. Yeah. Come on. 4.
Right in the middle.
I'm taking a level in cleric, Matt.
Okay.
Do you know what D&D is? It is a game of chance. Do you know what I find really boring? Taking away that chance. And Revival Magic in D&D takes away all chance, all stakes, no risk, because it is guaranteed to work every single time without fail. With Matt Mercer's rules, this is no longer the case. Revivify has changed, and then so has the other higher level Revival Magics, but I'm pretty sure now those just encompass one thing. So I'm going to start with Revivify, and Revivify, in my opinion, is perfect the way that Matt Mercer changes it. He adds a DC, which is based on how many times you've died, and that's about it. It starts at 10 plus 1, so 11, and then plus 1 after that for each time you die, which, in my opinion, is fantastic. But that means you have to roll, and if you roll too bad, it's less than 50%, right? Well, no, you get to add your spellcasting modifier, which is huge, which means if you're at a certain level, you could have plus 5 to this, which to me is great. I think that's an excellent sort of balance out for it. So now you have a very good chance of rolling above that 10 or 11, whatever that DC is. You can even change the DC to be lower if you feel like you shouldn't be, 50% on coming back to life, which I think is a good idea. But I overall really like the fact that there is now a role to go with it, whether it be the DM who rolls, whether it be the player who rolls. The fact that you've added a role to Revival Magic simply makes it far less broken to just be like, oh, well, it's 300 worth of diamond. That is going to be easy as shit to find by the time you get level 5, which is, when you get Revivify. The fact that you're going to have a ton of money by that point is very likely, and the fact that you're going to be able to stumble upon some diamonds is also very likely, because as a DM, I'm not going to be like, no, you can't find diamonds. That means that spell is now worthless. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to be able to find their diamonds, they're going to be able to cast the spell, but now they have to roll to make sure that it goes over, which is what most spells are. You have to roll to hit, or someone has to roll to make the DC so they don't get hit as hard, or don't get hit at all, which I think makes sense. It is a game of chance. So if you take that away, like in Revival Magic, that's bullshit in my opinion. That is a free, get out of jail free card because, you just decided that magic is going to work this way, or that Revival Magic is going to work this way, which I dislike very much. You need to have the threat of death looming over the characters at all time. It'll make their choices mean more. It'll make everything else they do mean a lot more. And, the little handful of diamonds that you need to waste isn't that big of a deal, especially by level 5 and as you continue throughout a campaign. And after Revivify, there are other ones that have been changed to now be Revival Rituals, which I find to be a lot more entertaining and a lot more compelling, which is one person starts the ritual for the Revival spell, and then a bunch of other people get to contribute. This will lower the DC even further than it was before. Say your DC was 11 because you haven't died yet, and then it goes down from there because everyone else is helping. Whether it's a persuasion check because they want to persuade you back to the land of the living, whether it's a religion check where you're praying to your god, whether it's some sort of anything realistic, a history check where you make you tell a story about something you and the character who is now dead did something, and you're able to make a history check to make them remember it or whatever. I love this idea. I think it's great. And then again, on top of that, the caster gets to add their casting modifier. This one is a lot less of a risk in my opinion, but it is a lot more fun because you get to add everyone else into this. So into the whole thing, which I think is a lot more fun, a lot cooler, and is honestly just a great storytelling beat. Because now, instead of one person just going over and dropping a handful of diamonds into their chest, it is now 3 or 4 people, or 2 people, going into a conversation and sort of trying to bring this person back using whatever they have at their disposal, whether it be an item, whether it be a memory, whether it be a song, whether it be praying to their god. I think this is a really cool thing, and it adds a very cool character beat for your campaign, which is something that I think Matt Mercer really wants to add for a lot of people. A lot more character-driven stuff, and this definitely does that in spades.
Of this, there is nothing is emanating an aura.
And then taking the diamond and pushing Revivify as quickly as possible.
Okay. So I've rolled this privately in the past because I'd misremembered my own rules. So I'm going to have you, which is part of the intended design, to go ahead and roll a d20 for me and add your spellcasting modifier.
I'm going to be holding on to Ford's hand.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to do anything in the time it took me to do that?
I'm going to reach over and
do
try
it.
to cast the same thing on Orderly because I don't know how much time I have on Orderly.
So you have a diamond as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going
The
to keep watching the
300
water.
gold.
Where's my spellcasting? Oh,
It's your wisdom modifier.
wisdom modifier.
Last episode was land by Ford, so I guess I'm sitting him up towards Jester.
And I'll take his other hand.
Okay.
Just have to hold on to him.
Wisdom modifier.
Come on, Caduceus.
Don't suck. Come on. Don't be a dick. Okay, that's 11.
That's an 11.
With your modifier?
Why would...
Okay. Because Ford had not previously died. That leaves the DC at a certain number. And so as you focus and pushing the diamond down towards where the most gaping wound is, you watch as it kind of slowly turns to dust within the wound and itself become almost a congealed, like grainy material into the exposed blood. There's a moment of pause before the divine energy you channel through the Wild Mother creates a mess of vines that begin to grow from the wound and wrap around his torso. As the vines begin to condense and create a small nest or cocoon above where the wound is, you watch as they turn bright green, then turn brown and die and wither. The leaves of the vines immediately crumbling and decaying to dust. And as they do, leaving the wound itself partially healed. And you pause for a moment, and you hear the breath begin to come back into the lungs.
Cure wounds level 3.
Go ahead and roll for that.
I reach down and I kiss Ford on the forehead, and I immediately spin around and cast Revivify on Orderly.
Okay, you may join the table again.
Ups and downs.
Is he technically unconscious?
So there you have it, the things that I truly believe that you should take from Matt Mercer and use in your game. The Rule of Cool recaps, you should recap at the beginning of your session and throughout combat. You should absolutely add the reroll ones thing because I desperately hate people taking the average. And you should add Matt Mercer's revival rules because they add a lot more stakes and can lead to a lot more character-driven moments, which I think is a lot more fun than just someone pumping 300 diamonds worth of, or 300 golds worth of diamond into their chest. So these rules will, in my opinion, have improved my game and will improve your games. So yeah, there you go. Not all of them are rules. Some of them are just things you can do to improve your game, but it's just easier to say rules, isn't it? But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully next week everyone is healthy and they're able to record again, so that way we can have another episode of Critical Role. But until then, I will see you guys for whatever video I make next. Peace.